What is going on, everybody? Paul here, coming at you with your Crypto Coffee update, where we start the day right by discussing news and upcoming events, all in the wide and growing world of crypto. And first, join me now for our simultaneous sip, where we start the day right by enjoying a fresh cup of coffee or water together. Don't know if you guys like caffeine as much as I do. Alright, let's get into our first segment of the day, the news. Italian court seizes crypto exchange BitGrail's Bitcoin wallets. This is an update on something that happened back in February. You can see it is an Italian crypto exchange. BitGrail was hacked for 17 million nano, at the time Ryblox, tokens. The valuations were much higher then, and it amounted to over 100 million euro, a huge sum of money to be lost, and needless to say, this attracted the ire of nearly everybody involved and standing on the sidelines. It was a story of he said, she said. BitGrail said it was the fault of the nano devs, and the nano devs of course said it's the fault of BitGrail and their faulty security protocol. Well, now we're seeing who gets to decide that, and it looks to be the Italian courts. Some details from the article. BitGrail disclosed that its assets were indeed seized, and you can see the statement, June 5th, 2018. Pursuant to the Tribunal of Florence orders, the bitcoins contained in the company's wallets were seized and brought under control of the judicial authorities pending further court decisions in the pre-bankruptcy proceedings. So realistically, these funds are now locked by the municipality or Tribunal of Florence from the looks of things, and until the courts make a decision, no one's going anywhere. As I said, we've covered this before at length, so if you want to get the full scoop as to what was going on and what went down, I'll put the link below in the description for the Crypto Coffee update from February 23rd that goes into all sorts of detail as the news was breaking. And the individual who clarified this seizure of bitcoins was none other than the bomber, the gentleman who runs the BitGrail exchange. You can see here the tweet in his native language of Italian, and I went ahead and plugged that into Google Translate for us, where we can see he said, "If you did not understand it, I no longer have access to the funds deposited on BitGrail. They were seized following the legal actions prompted by an individual named Espen Enger. It's useless for you to keep contacting me. Now I cannot do anything anymore. You have to wait for the court." This has prompted some debate as to whether or not it is a reasonable approach to get a legal entity involved when there are discrepancies like this. After all, cryptocurrencies are lauded as a decentralized space where individuals can come to a consensus and solve their problems on an individual or collective level without the need for the intrusion of the state. However, nonetheless, this is what happened, and now it looks like no one's able to move until the courts decide. So it's for better or worse that this is where we stand. We'll keep you updated as we move forward. Our next piece of news is something that we've been touching on for a good while now, but some very interesting developments have come out of EOS. It's produced its first block, but the votes are not so decentralized, as you can tell by this article title. It was previously reported that 50% of all EOS tokens were held by a mere 10 addresses. And now it's worth noting that one individual can reasonably own more than one address. I have no source as to whether or not that's the case here. It may not be, but something to keep in mind. One address does not mean one individual, and vice versa. Now this is extremely important as well because EOS is a delegated proof of stake system. What this means is there are 21 block producing nodes. This is a built-in point of centralization that is offset by this voting system. Individual users are allowed to vote in order to vote out bad block producers or vote for things that serve the community interest. However, if 50% of all EOS tokens are held by 10 addresses, that very much concentrates the voting power. So now not only is the ability to produce blocks concentrated, so is the ability to vote. And a closer look at the distribution of votes reveals that's exactly what happened. Some serious whalish behavior. Curiously enough, we closed the last Crypto Coffee update talking about Dan Larimer and Brock Pierce, the individual who founded Tether. And remember, it was revealed in the Paradise Papers that Bitfinex and Tether are the same entity owned by the same people. You can see the names on the legal documents coming out of Panama. It's all public now. They currently stand 8th on the block producer list and received half, 50% of all of their votes from just 4 voters. from this we can determine that some individuals who have a large amount of capital and stake in the EOS system have shared interest in Bitfinex being a block producer of EOS. Most notably, the top voter has given 8.5 million votes to Bitfinex, and that accounts for more than a quarter of all of the votes Bitfinex received. For contrast, remember, 50% of all of Bitfinex's votes came from just 4 people. Look at the bottom here. 50% of the votes for EOS New York came from 40 voters, so 10 times greater the amount of decentralization in the votes of EOS New York when compared to Bitfinex. So it seems that a concentrated group shares a interest of having Bitfinex listed as a block producer. Very interesting. And you can see here a visual distribution of the votes. Notice here the huge chunks of blue. Those are assumingly single voters. So you see here EOS Huobi pool, one huge chunk of purple. That's one account voting. Juxtaposed next to the near impossible to see smattering of small slivers, each representing another individual user, and you could perhaps get a sense of scale as to just how disproportionate some of these accounts' voting power are. And just to wrap it up, the EOS mainnet did experience some freezing 2 days after launch, and this was kind of lauded over their head as a haha, the project's already failed. In my opinion, I don't put too much credence into minor bugs that are pretty quickly fixed, especially when nothing of major value was lost other than a little bit of time. Realistically, could there have been more time to run this on the testnet and perhaps find this bug? Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to reality, actually putting something into practice sometimes looks a lot different on the mainnet than it does on the testnet. So I don't think this is quite as big of news as some people made it out to be, although it is kind of humorous given the circumstances. So glad everything's back online, but the real meat of the matter, in my opinion, is the voting centralization and Bitfinex as an EOS node. Weird stuff. But for now, that's all we have for the news. Let's go ahead and get into the events section of our Crypto Coffee update, where we'll start out with June 18th, Monday. Blockchain Alternative Investment Conference is kicking off in London, seems to be a great event there, and IOTA will be at the ANWB Symposium happening in the Netherlands. That's it for Monday, June 18th. For Tuesday, June 19th, we have a Tech Open Air conference in Berlin. The Unite Berlin 2018 conference is kicking off, which is a video game conference sponsored by Unity and will be attended by Engine Coin. And Elastos is having a meetup in Ho Chi Minh City. That's all we have for Tuesday, June 19th, and for your Crypto Coffee update today. As usual, a big old list of B-list tokens below in the description. They're, of course, not bad projects. There's just way too much to report on while still respecting everybody's time. So if you find anything down there you like, let me know. Give me a shout out, and I'll see if I can bump it up to the main list if you are so interested. After all, we're all in this together. Yeah, it's been a minute since you heard me sing that one, right? All joking aside, your support really does mean the world. We are not a monetized channel, and we're really just working to make the crypto space the best it could possibly be. So, if you could show your support by dropping a like or just sharing this with anybody who would find it beneficial or useful, that would be fantastic. Also, a like on Steemit or a like on DTube does a lot to up our Steam power and give us a little bit of crypto to keep our efforts going. So many thanks for everybody who drops a like onto Steemit or DTube. It really is super helpful, so much appreciated to all of you who do that. But for now, I'm Paul, signing off. As usual, thanks so much for watching, and remember, the tide is rising.